Good morning. My name is Okira Harris. I serve as the Assistant to the Director of Public Engagement at the Office of the Governor, Governor Roy Cooper. This is our 16th weekly webcast with a purpose to keep you updated on important changes regarding ease restrictions and helpful resources. For further information, we encourage you to visit the North Carolina Health and Human Services website at covid19.ncdhhs.gov. During today's session, we'll hear from Deputy Secretary of Health Services, Ben Money, Director of Volunteerism and Community Service, Caroline Farmer, Executive Director at the North Carolina Board of Elections, Karen Bell, Chief of External Affairs at the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency, Haley Haynes, JDIG Economist at the North Carolina Department of Commerce, Lindsay Miley, and we will wrap up our session with a Q&A led by the Director of Public Engagement, Quinn Godwin. We encourage you to engage with us via the live stream chat room, via YouTube and WebEx during our session today so that your questions may be addressed. Again, we thank you for joining us, and now we will hear from Deputy Secretary of Health Services, Ben Money.
Thank you for having me. I'm Caroline Farmer. I'm with the Commission on Volunteerism and Community Service. I just want to apologize for the technical difficulties. Ben Money will be with you shortly. I just wanted to address some of the concerns that we're seeing right now in the state in terms of volunteerism needs. The need is greater than ever right now, but yet our volunteerism rates are down. So let's talk a little bit about the concerns that we're seeing, and I want you to think about where you might be able to fit in. So first up, feeding. The food banks, there are 7 food banks in the state of North Carolina, and those food banks feed all the pantries in the state. If we don't have enough volunteers at the food banks, then we cannot get the food to the food pantries at the local level. So both food banks and food pantries need volunteers right now. The numbers are down, but yet the services are greater than ever. So I want you to think about that opportunity if that works for you. My daughter and I went and volunteered. We sorted through a giant bin of potatoes, some of which were not in good condition. So she had a learning lesson there in terms of vegetables. So housing is the next one. You know, we are unfortunately hard hit by hurricanes, and so as part of that, we are always in need of a group of volunteers, skilled or unskilled, it does not matter, that will come in and help and paint and caulk and nail and put together people's houses. These hurricane victims have some gone without a home for years. And so it takes every hour you can give your family, your civic club, your church group, whatever group you would feel comfortable with, going and working at some of these homes together and making a difference to move that needle so that these families can get back into their homes. Education. So as a lot of you have heard, you know, we've got schools going on virtually, some in person, part-time. So it's been an interesting dynamic and huge learning curve for our teachers, our administrators, our parents, and our students. As part of that, the governor announced a couple of days ago about a new training program next week. NC Connect, Student Connect, being hosted by North Carolina Business and Education Group. They are providing training for teachers, for parents, so that they are better at remote learning, so that the digital literacy piece, so that people understand the programs, the processes, and how to better utilize our educational initiatives. And parents, I want to make sure you know, on that training, you will be able to learn about digital literacy. You will be able to learn about the platforms being used, Canvas and Google. You will also be learning about autism and how special efforts are being used to support autism and how you can help. Parents will learn about college applications and the FAFSA process. And then lastly on that is mental health, both yours and your students. So I encourage parents to look into that. It is going to be on October 28th. So in addition to the educational piece, we have nonprofits that are across the state that are needing assistance. And I would just encourage you, if there's an area, one of the areas that we listed, and if you're not able to get out, or if you have a special skill, think about calling some of those nonprofits that you care about continuing and making sure that you make that offer about whatever your special skill is, because they may not know that they could offer it in order to provide, to even request it. So if they don't know it's out there available, then they're not going to request it. So I would encourage you to proactively reach out and try to contact them. And if you don't hear back after one try, please try again. A lot of these nonprofits are overwhelmed. They don't have the volunteer base that they used to, so they are behind in emails. They're behind on calls. They don't always have somebody answering the phone for them. So just keep trying. And then lastly, volunteer centers. If you know that you want to get involved, there are volunteer centers all across the state that on a regular basis list volunteer opportunities. If you go to volunteernc.org, volunteernc.org, you will find under volunteer opportunities, there's a listing for education, there's a listing for housing and disaster, there's a listing for in the first paragraph about volunteer centers. So I would encourage you to look for the volunteer center in your area, or there's 3 that are nationwide. So consider looking for those to see what opportunities you can fill. And then a shout out. So a Mexicon in collaboration with H2A farm workers, North Carolina growers, Almas Unidas, Piedmont Health, North Carolina Farm Worker Health Program, DHHS, Commerce, and Cooperative Extension got together and have been supplying COVID kits to our migrant farm worker population. They're doing education at the same time, so going through trusted partners to make sure that these volunteers are going out there and making sure that the migrant workers have what they need for during these rough times. So a shout out to them. And on that, I pass it to the next person in line. So thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Good morning. Today, our case counts for COVID-19 are increasing across North Carolina and across the country. All regions of our state are experiencing these increases. Last Thursday and Friday, we actually had our highest number of daily cases reported since the start of the pandemic. We're doing everything we can to slow the spread of the virus. The simple fact is we can't do it on our own. We need your help. Ignoring this virus doesn't make it go away. It's really just the opposite. In fact, in the past couple of weeks, we've seen an increase in COVID-19 clusters in social gatherings. These are things like, get-togethers, family gatherings, parties. We've also seen an increase in cases from clusters in religious settings. You also can see where there are places where we're learning about clusters, and we've got a new report up on our DHHS website dashboard that we're updating every week. But it's critical that at this time, we take time to focus on the basics. And what are they? They're wearing a mask, they're washing their hands, they're waiting 6 feet apart from other people. These are the habits that we've developed that lower our numbers, and they've done it over the summer. These are really our best tools. And so with colder weather and the holidays coming, we're really very concerned. Yes, I know we're all tired of COVID, but this virus is opportunistic. It's ready for us to let our guard down. So at DHHS, what we've done is we've developed guidance for private social gatherings, and soon we'll be we've got this posted to our website now, but soon we'll be developing guidance for the holidays. But I want to just kind of go over this with you and let you know that it's really important to remember that any situation in which people come together poses a risk for COVID-19 transmission. So here's some of the basics. You know, don't host or attend a gathering if you've been diagnosed with COVID-19. It might sound simple, but it's really important that you don't go out and spread the virus. If you're waiting for your test results, you know, we want you to quarantine. Don't go out. If you're experiencing any symptoms, don't go to a party or host one. Also, if you've known that you've been exposed or suspect you've been exposed to someone with COVID-19, again, don't go out. And also for any gathering, we want to make sure that you're mindful of our current mass gathering limits and not to exceed those, which would be 25 people indoors and 50 people outdoors. Also, any folks that are at risk of complications for severe case of COVID-19, such as people that are over 65 or people that have underlying health conditions, really should avoid social gatherings. Also, if you're thinking about hosting an event, consider a virtual event, or at least have a virtual option so that people who may have underlying conditions have an opportunity to participate but safely at home. Also, outdoor activities are really preferred over indoors because it's easier to stay apart. There's more wind to help reduce the spread of the virus. But even in an outdoor setting, there is the opportunity for the virus to be contracted. So we want to encourage you to continue to practice those 3 W's, to wear a face covering, to wait 6 feet apart, and wash your hands during either an indoor or an outdoor event. Also, if you're hosting a social gathering, remind your guests to stay at home if they have been exposed to COVID-19 or have symptoms. Give your guests sort of the rules of your event in advance, you know, how you intend on having that gathering, making sure that you actually even keep lists of the folks that do come in case there is a need for health department contact tracers to actually reach out to folks. It would be important as you consider your gathering to make sure that you avoid physical contact. So part of those, you know, your guidelines for your guests is, you know, avoiding having handshakes or hugs or any kind of physical contact. So people who are in your immediate household can be within that 6 feet window because you're with each other, you know, on a regular basis. But folks that are outside of your household, notice I said household, not family, but people that you live with, you really want to maintain that social distancing. You also want to arrange tables and chairs to allow for that. And you want to also be mindful when you're serving alcohol. The guests may be less likely to follow social distancing and other rules for your event while they're drinking. So consider providing face coverings for folks, asking people to bring them, but if they don't have them available for them. Also have plenty of hand sanitizer around, making sure that people wash their hands before consuming food. Also making sure that you've got restrooms available with plenty of disposable paper towels and soap that is in a container that does not require people to touch it very often. Also, when you're thinking about having people bring food, encourage guests to bring their own food, maybe for their household. If you do have food that is available, limit the number of people that are going in and out of the areas where food's being prepared or where it's being handled. Have kind of a one household approach in serving the food so that households go up together so that you're not having a lot of people congregating around the serving area. You may even want to identify having one person to serve the food so that multiple people aren't handling serving utensils. Also, consider those single-use options for disposable plates and knives and forks, that sort of thing. And then have plenty of disinfectant around to disinfect door handles, sink handles, bathroom surfaces before guests come and also between use. Make sure that people wash their hands when they come in, before they have meals. Consider using touchless garbage cans, and you also use gloves when you're removing garbage bags and disposing of trash. The other thing that you want to do as you're contemplating attending a party is really check with the host to see what their rules are, what they intend to do to practice safe COVID-19 guidelines. You also may want to, as kind of a gift to the host, bring some supplies with you. Bring some face coverings, some hand sanitizer, bring some drinking water for the guests. Also, consider getting a flu shot. You really should get a flu shot for yourself, for your family. It's very important this particular flu season. Also, as you eat, remember you're going to need obviously to remove the face covering when you eat, but be sure you're maintaining that 6 foot minimum social distance, and to remember to put your face coverings back on after you're done eating and drinking. Also consider self-serve food or drink options in your buffet. May even have condiment stations with single-serve condiments or single-serve drinks. And be sure to wash your hands frequently during your holiday and social events. Really, we know that this is going to be a different holiday season for us all, but we want to make sure that it's as safe as possible. We know that it's the time when we want to gather with our friends and our family. Recognize that doing it virtually is going to be a way that we can keep ourselves safe. But if we do come together, DHHS has provided guidance, and we'll continue to provide guidance over the holidays so that you can have a safe and enjoyable holiday season. I want to just thank you so much for your attention to these messages, and for further resources, please go to our website. Thank you.
Good morning, fellow North Carolinians. I'm Karen Brinson Bell, the State Elections Director with the North Carolina State Board of Elections. We are 12 days away from the largest election that will ever have been held in our state, as we now have 7.3 million registered voters. Back in March, the state board members and I made the decision that we would continue offering all 3 voting methods to our state, that being absentee by mail, in-person early voting, and election day in-person voting. We wanted to be prepared and to plan to do this in a safe and secure manner to ensure that every voter would have the opportunity to cast their vote without fear of disease. 100 county boards of elections have made these preparations, and we are well underway with our voting. More than 1.7 million ballots have already been cast during the first week of one-stop in-person early voting. Nearly 700,000 ballots have been cast through absentee by mail. Requests for absentee by mail ballots can be made up until October the 27th, though we encourage anyone who wants to use this voting method to make their request now, and go ahead, and if you plan to use that as your voting method, mark those ballots, have the ballot envelope witnessed, and return it to the County Board of Elections so that it can be received timely and counted. We encourage folks to use the absentee portal that's available on our state board website to make those requests, as this is the most timely way to get your request into the County Board of Elections. That portal is on our state board website, ncsbe.gov. Absentee by mail ballots may be delivered in person or returned by mail. If they are delivered in person, they must be done so by the voter, near relative, or legal guardian. They can be returned to a one-stop early voting site during the operating hours of those sites through October 31st, though we do caution folks that there may be lines at those one-stop early voting sites. So another option would be to return that ballot in person to the County Board of Elections office. before 5 p.m. on Election Day. So that can be returned through the County Board of Elections office during their normal business hours up until 5 p.m. on Election Day in order to be considered timely received. If a voter chooses to return their absentee by mail ballot by mail, they would need to do so and as soon as possible, but before by Election Day so that it is properly postmarked and can be accepted and counted. If someone has requested a ballot and by mail and has chosen to would rather not vote that method now and would rather vote in person, they may discard that ballot, destroy that ballot at their home, and go and vote in person. If you have already returned your ballot to the County Board of Elections and it's been accepted, then you will be marked as having voted if you appear at a one-stop early voting site or on Election Day to vote. If there is any discrepancy, you will be offered a provisional ballot in order to cast your vote. If you choose to vote during the in-person early voting period, you may do so until October the 31st. Sites are open across the state. We have 448 sites that are open, the most ever that we've had for in-person early voting. And those sites are open weekdays in all counties from 8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. There are weekend hours available in all counties also, and all sites will close at 3 p.m. on the final day, October the 31st. I would advise that folks, if you do plan to go and vote during the one-stop in-person early voting period, do so now. The lines are now shorter, but they will lengthen if tradition follows itself, and the longest lines that we'll see during the in-person early voting period will be the final 3 days. So plan your vote and be patient as we try to administer this election during the pandemic. If you have not registered to vote, your last opportunity to do so is during the in-person early voting period. It's called same-day registration, and you may register and vote at an in-person early voting site. Registration is not allowed on Election Day. Election Day polling places are open 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. And on Election Day, you are to vote at your precinct associated with your residence. So you do want to go online and check your polling location and to make sure that your voter registration information is up to date. And then proceed, if you do choose to vote on Election Day, proceed to that precinct polling location. We have put in place numerous safety measures for this election. We have not conducted an election in a pandemic in modern times. So we have worked with our partners at State Emergency Management and at Health and Human Services to ensure the safety of not only our voters, but also our workers. In doing so, State Emergency Management has helped us to disperse over 14 million PPE, protective personal equipment items, across the state to ensure safe voting. Those include masks that will be available for every voter, and we encourage all voters to wear their masks into the polling place and as they wait in line. We'll also have hand sanitizer as the voters enter and exit the polling locations. Other measures that have been put in place is that we are providing single-use pens at the voting sites. So a voter will be given a pen to use to mark their ballot, and they will be able to leave with that pen. Cotton swabs are also available for those individuals who use the ballot marking device, which is a touchscreen machine that a voter can use that has high contrast feature or braille, and then the ballot is printed onto a ballot card. Workers will be wearing masks. They may also be wearing face shields or be behind a protective barrier to ensure their safety and that they are not exposing the voters to disease. They may also be wearing gloves depending on the task. There will be extensive cleaning. Voting booths will be cleaned after each voter's use and ready for the next voter to mark their ballot in that voting booth. There will also be social distancing enforced as people stand in line and also while they're in the polling place. Again, I'll just stress, please plan your vote. That is the theme of this election for sure. Check your voter registration. Know your polling place or which one-stop early voting site you choose to go to, and review your sample ballot. A general election ballot is quite lengthy, typically 20 or more contests. So if you're familiar with the ballot and familiar with who you want to make your selections for, you'll have a shorter and smoother voting process. For more information, you can always go to ncsbe.gov or your County Board of Elections website. You can follow us on social media and through the hashtag YourVoteCountsNC. We are committed to make sure that every voter can cast their ballot in a secure and fair manner and to do so without fear of disease. And thank you for going out and voting.
Good morning. My name is Haley Pfeiffer Haynes, and I'm Chief of External Affairs for the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency. I'm here to share information today about the HOPE program, which is the Housing Opportunity and Prevention of Evictions program, which is a new statewide initiative providing rent and utility assistance to eligible low and moderate income renters experiencing financial hardship due to the economic effects of COVID-19. This new program will help prevent evictions and utility disconnections in order to promote housing stability during the ongoing pandemic. This is an initiative of our office, which is a division of the Department of Public Safety. First, let's talk about who might be eligible for this program. HOPE will provide rent and utility assistance to renters. You must be a renter to get utility or rent assistance. You have to have been affected by the coronavirus pandemic economically, have a household income that is 80% of the area median income or lower, and be behind on your rent or utilities when you apply. That would be at least 1 month behind. So how should you apply? We have two ways to apply, and let's go over those. We're in partnership with North Carolina 211. So we encourage people to go online where we have an application that's available there that's steps you right through the process. That can be found at nc211.org/hope. And let me emphasize, the online application has no lines to apply. Now, if you don't have access to be able to go to the online application, you can also call 211 and someone there can assist you with completing that application. So what does the HOPE program provide? This is a grant program. It is not a loan. So people who are approved for assistance, if they get rent assistance, they are eligible for up to 6 months of rent. That includes back rent and future rent. So you must have at least 1 month that is behind, and then the program will pay up to 6 months total. So if you're 3 months behind, we would pay 3 months of your back owed rent, and you could get 3 months of your future owed rent paid as well. This rent would be paid directly to your landlord. Your landlord has to agree to participate in the program because the landlord is going to have to agree to certain things in order to maintain your housing stability when they receive these funds. Utility assistance is available for past due essential utilities. So those include electricity, water, sewer and wastewater, natural gas, and propane. Other utilities, such as telecommunications or internet access, are not covered by this program. This assistance would also be paid directly to your utility provider. So let's talk about what you will need in order to apply. The kind of information and documents that you need will be your current household income information. So you would need to be able to provide the monthly income for anyone living in your household. Provide a government-issued identification, proof that you occupy the rental, so that would be a bill that goes to the rental address, could be a utility bill or other bill, or a voter registration card can also prove occupancy. and a copy of a valid current lease if you have a written lease. We will also, the program also accommodates oral leases, but you will need to be able to provide some information about your oral lease, the amounts and things like that, and as well as information about your landlord, because the program does have to contact your landlord. As well as you would need to provide copies of any utility bills that you are seeking assistance with. So, in order for a landlord to participate, these are the things that the landlord will agree to if they receive funds. They must stop or dismiss any eviction proceeding that they have going against the renter. They have to agree not to evict you for the remainder of the lease or for 90 days after your last month of assistance, whichever is longer. They have to agree not to increase the rent or impose new fees during the lease. And they have to agree to maintain a safe and habitable dwelling for the renter. You can apply for just utility assistance or just rental assistance, or you can apply for both. I think that it's important to also talk for a moment about folks who are still concerned about eviction. To date, we have received over 14,000 eligible applications for this assistance, and it grows by every day. So we want to encourage anyone who needs this assistance to please go ahead and apply by going to nc211.org/hope. But if you are worried about eviction still, we want to make you aware that the Center for Disease Control has issued a moratorium against evictions. In order for you to be able to take advantage of that moratorium, there are some steps you have to take to protect yourself. You can go to our webpage at nc211.org/hope to get the form that you need to fill out that you would then give to your landlord and you would present in court if you receive eviction proceedings. These are, this is an affidavit where you are certifying to certain statements in order to take advantage of that moratorium. We really want to encourage anyone who is concerned about being evicted to go ahead, go online, get that form, fill it out, and get it to your landlord. If you get served with court proceedings, be sure to bring a copy of that with you. If you are in need of legal assistance and you do not have funds to hire an attorney, which if you're about to be evicted, you probably don't, there are legal resources with such organizations as Legal Aid of North Carolina, or if you live in the western counties with Pisgah Legal Services. We really want you to consider going ahead, even if you apply for this assistance, and you're concerned about eviction, to go ahead and take advantage of that CDC moratorium in order to give you some peace of mind and some breathing room. We hope that you, if you have need of further information, you can go online to our website, which is nc211.org/hope, and there's more information there for you. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lindsay Miley. I'm from the North Carolina Department of Commerce. Thank you for having me here with you today. I'm very excited to provide an overview of our Mortgage, Utility, and Rent Relief Program, commonly referred to as MURR or MURR. This program is meant to provide assistance to small businesses that have experienced significant disruption and were not able to open due to the pandemic. We understand the difficulties that these businesses are facing because they have not been able to operate. This program is designed as a direct payment to provide relief for fixed expenses such as rent and utility costs. It is not a loan that will need to be repaid back. The program is supported by federal coronavirus relief funds that were sent to the state. There is a total of $40 million available. Now, to date, we have received over 1,000 applications. However, it's important to know that we do still have a significant amount of funding available. So to dive into the details of the program, I'd like to give you an overview of the eligibility requirements. To receive these relief funds, a company must be a for-profit business in one of these specific eligibility categories. These categories include businesses such as bars, nightclubs, fitness centers, and movie theaters. A full list of eligibility categories is available at the NC Commerce website. I would encourage you to please review our eligibility list. There are many categories available, and we continue to update that list as we're able to add flexibility to the program. Each company can claim expenses for up to 2 business locations. Each location for which relief is sought must have less than 50 employees and must have been closed between April and July of 2020 due to COVID-19. Now, as I mentioned before, the funding from this program is being provided by the Federal CARES Act. So dollars received from this program cannot pay for expenses that have already been paid using other CARES Act dollars, such as the PPP. Now, to clarify, receiving CARES Act dollars does not disqualify you from participating in the MURR program. We just need to ensure that there is no double dipping. You can't use these funds to pay for the same expense. The amount of funding available to each company is capped at $20,000 per qualifying business location. And again, there's a maximum of 2 locations per company. That makes the total maximum amount a single company can receive as $40,000. The assistance is based upon the company submitting proof of obligation and proof of payment for up to 4 months of eligible business expenses between April and August of 2020. Now, it's very important to note that because of the federal reporting requirements surrounding the use of these funds, businesses must have paid for these expenses in order to receive funds from this program. Now, if you are a business that has not yet been able to pay some or all of your rent, mortgage, or utility obligations for the COVID period, you may submit an application and we will hold your place in line. You can then go ahead and pay those bills and submit proof of payment by November 8th, and that will assure that you will receive payment from the MURR program. You can submit an online application by visiting the North Carolina Department of Commerce website at nccommerce.com. You will see a banner at the top of the page that will take you directly to the information regarding the MURR program. On the website, you will find all of the up-to-date information regarding eligibility and the application process. We understand that these are challenging times for businesses that have not been able to operate due to the pandemic. We are continually reviewing the program and finding ways to add flexibility to ensure that this aid reaches businesses in need as quickly as possible. You can help us do that by reviewing the instructions very carefully that are on the website before you submit your application. The cleaner that the applications come in, the quicker we can get them processed and the quicker we can get payments out the door. So please continue to check the NC Commerce website for updates and email any questions directly to murr@nccommerce.com. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here with you today. My name is Quinn Godwin. I serve as the Engagement Director for the 75th Governor of North Carolina, Governor Roy Cooper. Of course, want to thank our speakers today, the usual gang, Okira, Ben, and Caroline, and also our new friends, Karen, Haley, and Lindsay today. So I want to cover a couple of things. We didn't have any Q&A submitted on our webcast, so the first thing I want to talk to you about is an update from the Department of Employment Security. And as of yesterday, $8.4 billion in benefits have been sent to North Carolinians. The Department of Employment Security has determined eligibility for 99% of claims for state unemployment insurance benefits. The next thing I want to cover is COVID enforcement guidelines. While our reopening metrics allow us to remain paused in phase 3 and not go backward, the increase in our state COVID count numbers require a greater compliance and enforcement, particularly from local governments and municipalities. So Ben talked to you a little bit about, personally enforcing COVID guidelines within your family and friends, parties you might be having at your home and such, especially with the holidays coming up. So yesterday, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Dr. Mandy Cohen, and Secretary of Department of Safety, Secretary Eric Hooks, sent a letter to local officials in communities with increased viral spread. And they were urging their continued action in fighting COVID-19 and suggesting additional measures to mitigate its spread. So among those suggestions, the first one was utilize a wide array of resources that DHHS has created to win the hearts and minds of North Carolinians. And this includes messaging around the 3 Ws, Faith Leaders Toolkit, and much more. And these materials can all be found at covid19.ncdhhs.gov/materials-resources. And the next thing they suggested to local governments and municipalities is to consider additional local actions to improve compliance, to best position our health systems and first responders to respond to the challenges that can accompany rising numbers in COVID-19. So examples of that could be adopting an ordinance that imposes a civil penalty or fine, which is separate from issuing a Class 2 misdemeanor for violating the provisions of a local ordinance, or issuing a local emergency proclamation addressing the COVID-19 pandemic. And to help inform local decision-making, North Carolina DHHS recently added a new county-level data category to the North Carolina COVID-19 dashboard on the county by map by cases section of the summary dashboard page. And this allows you to view county-level case data in particular date ranges, where we haven't been able to do that before. So in closing, Governor Cooper has underscored the importance of wearing masks, social distancing, and using good judgment despite our fatigue. And I know we're all feeling it, the fatigue and frustration of just 7 months straight of quarantine, COVID guidance practices, everything. So, despite that, the governor has allowed us to remain paused in phase 3, and the metrics have allowed for that. But again, the increased compliance and enforcement is greatly needed for us not to go back to where we were earlier in the year. As the case numbers and hospitalizations in our state continue to rise, we must work even harder to slow the spread of this virus in 3 important ways. By practicing the 3 Ws, of course: wear, wait, and wash, getting your flu shot if you haven't done so already, and downloaded the Slow COVID NC app. So I hope you enjoyed our show today. Thank you all for joining us, and please keep your families safe during this extended phase 3. Thank you.